So, my clock, this is the story of how we met. Faiz Jacobs tweeted on August 30th. Saturday was one more great workshop with candidates of the Metro. Thank you to everyone that attended. Then there's a picture of a room full of people. One of them is me. And then this guy called Mike Newlands replies, well done, guys. Was it one, workshopping for unpaid ANC staff, two, shoplifting, three, just general thieving from our people, or four, how to not end up in jail like Zuma? Hashtag footsack ANC. And then I replied to you, not knowing you, well, Mike, as far as I know, the only politician in this province who is going to jail for stealing is a DA councillor, Nora Gross, covered up by your beloved DA City of Cape Town. So my constructive suggestion is for you to F off. And your reply was, I agree. Massacre of miners in cold blood and starving to death of 164 patients, the beating to death of Collins Khosa by SANDF, the corruption Gupta's pales in insignificance. Would you like to debate this with me in public on radio? No, I didn't think so. Coward, footsack ANC. And then I said, like, Mike, I would debate you or anyone else anytime, anywhere. So here we are, Mike Clark. It's nice to make your acquaintance. What do you think? What do you think it is about Twitter that makes people just naturally angry with each other?
Well, I think we're a naturally angry country. I think we've all, in some way or other, Roscoe, we're all frustrated for whatever reason, whichever party we come from. And I think Twitter is, as you rightly pointed out, it's a toxic form of communication. You want to get as much angst into it as possible, as quickly as possible. And it's a very reactionary platform. So, yes, when I saw that and I saw you guys and I saw the ANC and I thought, oh, no, it's not right. I mean, it looks so normal in your picture of everybody sitting around, and I'm sure it was a very nice meeting. But on the other hand, I've just read that we've now had another round of corruption, another 600 million's been looted with very little or no consequences as usual. And I just thought, no, guys, you're sitting there in your room, you're having obviously some sort of a training program, and you guys are living in a dream world. So I just felt that it was time to remind you of that. And yes, I took it upon myself to send out that rather perhaps harsh Twitter, but it's a fact that I am very frustrated. Twitter is a vehicle for that. And apologies for that, but in a way, but on the other hand, I'm glad I did it. We wouldn't be talking now. And it is a pleasure to be able to chat with you, Roscoe, because everything is so one-sided. I live in my little DA world here in Newlands, and everybody tells me the leafy suburb and blah, blah, fish cake. And they're right, it is leafy suburb, and it is very nice to live here. And I can prove that because I've got 11 ANC MPs in their mansions within a 2-mile radius of my house. So the ANC like it here too, I might add. I did work quite hard to get here. Nobody gave me the house. I didn't come from a wealthy family. I started off in my business as a driver. I didn't have a fantastic I had a wonderful opportunity for great education, but that's another story, I suppose. But the fact of the matter is, I live here in Newlands because I worked very hard to be here. And then I see the frustration that people that are not given an opportunity that I have, which I was certainly given under apartheid, now we seem to be back in that same terrible situation where I got a superior schooling because I was white and I came from a white family in a white area and I was born into apartheid for no fault of my own. But I really thought that 24 years after ANC rule, we would be in a better situation and it wouldn't be just this awful education system that we have. And the ANC has really just become, in my humble opinion, as the book says, a gangster state. So that's the frustration I share every day. That's why I joined the DA. I wasn't a political party member for many, many years, but when the ANC but I was always a big ANC supporter. So when the election came round and Nelson Mandela came out of jail, I voted ANC because and I felt I could hang up my political hat. I'd been a little bit of an activist. I can't claim any great victories as an activist, but I always felt I was on the right side of the truth, and I was certainly a big supporter of the ANC. And in fact, I was lucky enough to meet Nelson Mandela in a function because we were invited there through various circumstances. So I always sort of felt I did the right thing. But I was very happy when the ANC won. And it was only really, I think, what made me become first very frustrated, and I realized we were in big trouble, was when Roscoe, what was it called, when the travel gate broke, and I don't know if you can remember that. It was when we still had the Scorpions, and I was absolutely horrified that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this was going on behind the scenes, and I just couldn't get my head around this. And I watched, and then I remember Wedi Mantashe was then Secretary General, and I started to slowly, my interest in politics started to reawaken when he said, look, he's not going to convict anybody because it's really just too much admin. So all those MPs that stole not a lot of money, they're going to stay as MPs. And I said, well, that's clearly the beginning of the end for the ANC. Well, it's been a long road, and I still think it's very close to the end for the ANC. But my political interest, has grown from that day onwards. And once again, I became politically aware, and I joined the DA probably, I think, 6 or 7 years ago. Mainly because I was challenged on the radio, and everybody used to say when I phoned in, this is guys from the DA, which I wasn't. But I thought, all right, I think after a while, everybody's accusing me of being with the DA. I might as well join them. But at the end of the day, I like what the DA does. And I like a non-racial party. And the DA has proved that it is a non-racial party in many respects. But more importantly, it's an honest party. It doesn't generally have corruption. It doesn't generally steal. It seems to do the right thing, and people seem to have their hearts in the right place. But that's maybe a discussion for later. But so that's a little bit of my history, and that's probably why I'm sitting here talking to you now, which I feel better already. It's like talking to my psychiatrist. I'm feeling better.
No problem. But like I feel your frustration as well, but from the other side of the political spectrum, whereas if you would feel in a way that that there's nothing you can do about, let's say, ANC corruption and practices in the ANC. I feel the same way about the Democratic Alliance in the city of Cape Town, where I don't feel that people here have agency over the poor people, that poor people have agency to hold the DA to account. And I think a lot of the fault with that lies in the ANC. But also a lot of that lies with the DA, and like how the DA members cannot introspect or see fault with the ANC, but cannot be critical about their own party. I think the ANC would love to have that sort of thing in the party where the DA members are so blinkered that they would not see trends. For example, you say that the DA is a non-racial party. I mean, where black people have been sidelined in the DA, it's not 3 or 4 separate incidences. It's a pattern of marginalization and sidelining. That I think the DA members want to believe the best of their party. I think anybody in the political party wants to believe the best of them. But when I talk about cleaning up politics, I don't only talk about cleaning up ANC politics. I talk about cleaning up the DA. When the DA speaks about accountable opposition or strong opposition parties, they must also take into account that they are a ruling party in Cape Town and in the Western Cape, and they need strong opposition here. Otherwise, they, as they have done, they run amok. I generally think that we let the DA run amok in the Western Cape, and in particular in Cape Town. We don't put councillors in Newlands, for example, in sub-council 20 where you stay. So we don't look at what the MEC for Safety and Security, who's deployed to that sub-council, and the mayor, who's also deployed to that sub-council, do within that. We should be closing down the political spaces for them, as the DA do with the ANC nationally. By the time Dan Plato comes to the mayoral chamber, he should be spinning from being held to account and having his feet put to the fire in sub-council 20, that he needs to think twice before they think about doing things wrong. And I think that there's a lot of room for improvement in the ANC, and there's room for improvement for the DA in governance. So that's where I wanted to speak to you. I wanted to break out of my bubble, and I wanted to sort of invite you into my worldview. So instead of hashtag Futsak ANC and me telling you to F off, we could have this discussion, and I don't expect to convert you to be an ANC member, and I won't join the DA, but ultimately we're both residents of Cape Town. We're both politically savvy, and we're both South Africans. So, we're going to have these dialogues. Otherwise, we're just going to push each other further and further away. And I think that's been happening over the last 20 years. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think I hear exactly what you're saying. I would take issue on a few things. I'm not sure. Well, first of all, I don't think I wouldn't say the DA is running amok. I'm not quite sure in what sense it is. I think, look, I'm not a spokesman for the DA. I'm simply a member of the DA, and I'm just arguing for the DA. So
me as well.
Yeah,
I'm not in any capacity. I'm just an ordinary member. So yeah,
just an ordinary member. So I think what makes this conversation so interesting. We don't have any candles to carry for anybody, but So where I see it, and I guess I sort of speak generally for my DA circle of friends, if you like, is that we are comfortable in the fact that the DA does try to do its best and run a good government, and does, or rather, a good province. I think the fact that the DA is not being held to account, as you rightly point out, by the ANC or any other political party for that matter, is because that they haven't got their act together. I mean, the ANC is in a situation in the Western Cape where, I mean, I have no inside track, but, I have a little bit of information that comes my way, and it sounds like they're just in organized chaos. And I think the ANC in the Western Cape, to some extent, really represents what's happened in the rest of the country, is that it's a party of patronage. They're running out of money, and when there's no money, nobody wants to work for the ANC. So we see that in Tuli House. So I think the thing is that, so that's the one point I want to make. The other point is that the DA, I think, always gets a rough ride simply because it tends to be seen as a white party. And that's where it's always being held to account. I don't know if that's relevant to what you were saying, but to my mind, we need to actually just keep in mind that and this is what I'm going to defend the DA a little bit, is that they need to put in the best man for the job. Now, that's very unpopular in South Africa because we are very transformation orientated. Now, first of all, let me just say that I don't think there's any DA people that I know are not happy or would disagree with the possibility or the transformation policy per se. It makes absolute sense. One of the criminal things about apartheid, which I don't think is really ever discussed enough, is the fact that the National Party held this country in an iron grip for many years. Apart from the whites, every other race group was essentially seen as, I don't put it, as drawers of water and hewers of wood. And then one day, all of a sudden, Nelson Mandela's released from jail, and the ANC, which has been fighting this liberation battle, which everybody, I think, supported. I mean, we all know, with a vast majority of the white population stood behind the ANC. We knew it was morally wrong. They didn't know quite what to do about it sometimes, but they won this fantastic battle, and out comes this amazing person called Nelson Mandela. But the downside and the unintended consequences was the fact that now the ANC is launched from a transformation or from a liberation struggle into government. And suddenly they expected unfairly to have people that have really been focused on one thing, and that is freeing up the country from apartheid, to now run a country. And that's a very, very difficult thing to do. And I think where the ANC has fallen down, and that's the problem I have, is that they now are being blamed, but unfortunately they're a victim of it, is that it was unfair of us to expect the ANC to run this country straight off the bat. But also one understood what they wanted to achieve, because now they fought so hard for power, now they've got it. But very quickly, unfortunately, the wrong people got involved. And after Nelson Mandela retired, the problem started. And I'll start again with the small lies that came along. And And the wrong people started to get into power. And the next thing we had Travelgate, which I always, to my mind, was that door opened. And I thought once they learned that they could steal R1, and I say they cautiously, because Roscoe, not everybody in the ANC is a bad person. But there's good and bad in every party. But I think the bad guys started to get hold, and the good guys in the ANC didn't shout enough, or a lot of them just sat back and said, oh, well, we'll deal with it later. I don't really know. But certainly I could never be a member of the ANC today simply because I would feel guilty by association. Just sitting next to in Parliament, next to a guy who I know has lied in Parliament. There's so many of them, we all know who they are, or has stolen from us. But there's good guys in the ANC that sit next to him, and they're quite comfortable doing that. So that's always the thing. I think that the problem that poor ANC has had to face is this suddenly expected to run from a liberation into a governmental situation. Very difficult to expect someone to do that. And I think the ANC tried its best, and they certainly gave us a head start with Mandela, but it was almost they wanted too much too quickly. And I think also, it was, and I understand that there's a lot of anti-white sentiment. So they wanted to say, I'm going to run this ESCOM. They fired all. I still remember one of the big cheeses in ESCOM back in the day said that he understands transformation, but it's happening too quickly. And they, I think, got rid of something like, 1,000 artisans and I don't know how many engineers because they were white, and they were removed from ESCOM almost overnight. And I remember the general manager, whoever he was at ESCOM, made a statement in the Beeld or whatever newspaper it was at the time, saying transformation is happening too fast. And this will be catastrophic, I think was the word he used, going forward. And look where we are today. It's all happened too much too quickly. And I feel the ANC did its best, but they didn't rise to the challenge. They allowed bad to become overpowerful, if you like. And now we had Zuma, we had the doctors, and now I think we can never really ever catch up. And we just can't. And yesterday I looked to the manifesto speech, and the one thing in my head I thought, with President Ramaphosa talking, I remember in the last 5 years ago, he promised 1 million houses to the people of Alexandra. He hasn't built one. And he's asking for another 5 years. And I thought, there's something wrong here. And I don't know what to do about it. And I think we're too far down the road now where this self-correction of the ANC, that ship's left, it's sailed, it's gone. And I think we're going to have to now deal with what we have left. And maybe that, I've spoken for a long time, but maybe that takes us on to what I would like as a solution. And I heard somebody talk about it the other day, which I did not expect him to say. But his idea was that the ANC might split, and the good guys in the ANC and the good guys in the DA will get together, and then the bad guys in the ANC will go somewhere else with the EFF, if you like, or whatever you want to argue. That's my opinion. And then we can maybe build something from there. But I do believe, as a DA supporter, and I think and I can't speak for the other DA supporters, but if the ANC said to the DA, this is my opinion, I would love to think that I'm right, and said, hey, you know what, guys, let's form a breakaway. Let's put in some honest government here. And I tell you, the DA would hand over the power of their seats to the ANC very, very quickly, in terms of they thought that this would be the vehicle which everybody can get involved in. Because at the moment, I agree with what you're probably going to say, and that is the DA is not growing fast enough. It's not a party that the blacks in South Africa can really resonate with. And that's a problem for the DA.
Yeah. Look, I think I want to get onto the future of the country a little bit later. But I think I want to come back to what you said. I agree with you that, that there are bad actors in the ANC, there are bad actors in the DA. But it comes back to the fact that the ANC are more likely to introspect, and they're more as a movement that's 100 years old. The DA is what, 2009, so it's 22 years old. The ANC is a 100-year-old organization, over 100-year-old. So it has to have this constant cycle of introspection, renewal, growth, introspection, growth, renewal, self-correction. It faces a really tough time now, but I think that the crisis in the DA is it mirrors the crisis in the ANC. And then the other thing that, for example, with the ANC not being good local government opposition party, one of the things that came down the track yesterday was the resignation of the executive director in the city of Cape Town, Craig Kesson. So he posted yesterday on Facebook, "It's the end of one journey and the start of another. After a decade of service, I'm leaving the city of Cape Town to take up a new challenge in November. I've had the most incredible opportunities in the city and I've grown immensely. It is a leading metropolitan government with amazing people from whom I've learned so much. In November, I will be joining PricewaterhouseCoopers as a partner, focusing on cities where I hope to continue working on an important urban agenda for the 21st century in a different capacity, blah, blah, blah." And that sounds great. The only problem is that Craig Kesson, as executive director of the city of Cape Town, was in charge of giving out these enormous tenders to PricewaterhouseCoopers and other consultants. So the city of Cape Town really is a consultantocracy. It's a corporatocracy. And I'm going to show you one example of one of the things that a guy like Craig Kesson and the corporatocracy in the city of Cape Town does. And this is something that the DA won't hold the DA guys to account, like Craig Kesson. The ANC has shown an unwillingness to hold it to account, and that will probably lead to a weaker caucus in Parliament, a weaker opposition as a whole. So if you look at tenders awarded November 2019. There's one year called panel tender 365C. This one right here, provision of professional management services support transversal management projects, program and portfolio management. Basically what this is if you contract all of these consultants, right? You look at this Pegasus, Ernst & Young, Glad Africa, PricewaterhouseCoopers. You give them a budget and they manage not only one project, but a series of projects. Let's say, for example, if you're building a low-cost housing community, you need people to plan it. You need architects. You need people to source. You need people to draw up the legal. So this is what's you give transversal tenders to make sure that there is it's a budget saving. So this panel tender was issued on November 25th, 2019. You see here, it's 40,000 Rand. Now, Ernst & Young, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and these guys don't get out of bed for 40,000. They don't get out of bed for 400,000. The real value of this tender was, in fact, 400, closer to 400 million. It was supposed to run over 36 months. They reached their cap after 18 months. All of a sudden, they ran around finding this money, work had to stop on these things, and the consultants were running around going, how the hell are we going to get paid? A budget reallocation came from where we still don't know, because when it comes to a budget reallocation, there are winners and losers. So that's the way Craig Kesson runs the city. Now he gets a job at PricewaterhouseCoopers. He's the highest paid executive director in the entire country in a job that he created for himself. He's understaffed all of the other executive directors. But are the DA going to hold him to account? No. When the DA talk about cadre deployment, are they talking about the fact that Craig Kesson's wife is the Speaker in Council and a close friend of Helen Zille? No. When the DA talk about cadre deployment, do they talk about the fact that you have to attend the Young Leadership Helen Zille Book Club and you get deployed to the city of Cape Town in council as a functionary or as a staffer? No, they don't. All of it is bad. All of this corruption and this golden handshakes between the corporate sector and government, all of it must go, whether it's an ANC government or what we've seen with the EFF and DBS or all of these regional barons that we have forming on the West Coast in the province, all of it must go. And it's such a pity that we don't have a DA that can introspect honestly And more the pity that we don't have a viable opposition that can say like, hey, listen, Craig, what are you doing? What's this golden handshake? Why haven't you appointed these other EDs? I think in the perfect world, the DA would hold itself to the same standards that it holds other political parties. And that's our frustrations are the same. The only difference is that I may be wearing a yellow T-shirt. You may be wearing a blue T-shirt. So for us to really change politics, we have to, in my view, change this thing of behaving like fans in a soccer stadium, where if your team slips up, I'm in your face singing 1-0, 1-0. If my team slips up, it's like sports, it's like the Formula One, and it shouldn't be like that. It should be about service delivery, accountability. And I think that regardless of what you think about the ANC or what I think about the DA, or that the DA is a racist party or whatever the case may be, even if the DA acknowledged tomorrow, yeah, we've been racist, X, Y, and Z, that doesn't suddenly bloom 10,000 houses and 100 factories to increase our manufacturing capacity. We have to look at things like, where's the money going? Who holds the purse strings? Is this person accountable? Are we accounting for every cent? Because even though this thing may not be corrupt in law, it is unethical. It favors a few people, and it benefits guys like Craig Kesson and his professional political class that is in the ANC, the DA, all of these political parties. I just wish that this would be brought up in council.
Yeah, look, I hear exactly what you're saying. What's the word above my pay grade? I'm not that well informed as to the day-to-day of, the tenders and what actually goes on behind the scenes. I think what I'll say is that, look, Craig Kesson, actually, be honest, I don't know much about him. In fact, I have heard the name before, but I just can't really comment on it. Suffice to say, I suppose all I can really do is do what most South Africans do. Well, certainly what, let's say, most Cape Townians do, but I think we all have jobs to do, and we all have other responsibilities. Basically, we're trying to earn a living. And so not a lot of us, and I'm certainly up there with them, I don't look at the day-to-day machinations of the DA, nor for that matter the ANC. What I do is I look to the Auditor General, who up to now has been, every single Auditor General that has come to the party, and including the lady that's in the position now, are just first rate. And so when the Auditor General comes along and gives the DA in the Western Cape a clean audit, or what is it? It's an unqualified audit. Is that right? The right word? I just go, great, and I can move on. And I won't disagree with you. There's quite possibly things are happening behind the scenes, but I wouldn't know about that. I'm like your average ratepayer here, trying to make a living. I'm at work today. I would like to have retired a long time ago, but we can't. We're tough out here. So we all have to make a living. So, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but and that is an area where the DA needs to be watched more carefully. But sadly, the only watchdog that we really have is the ANC. And the ANC, and sadly, is in no position to try and watchdog anybody else when it's just knee-deep in its own corruption. And frankly, if the ANC was to come along and tell me, this is what's happening, I'm really not going to take them seriously. Because, guys, until you can stop stealing my money, or stealing the money, our money, and running what is essentially a gangster state and a gangster business, your criticism is not going to carry any weight. But I do know the Auditor General has given us a clean bill of health. And for me, certainly as a citizen and as a ratepayer in the Western Cape, I'm happy for that. And that's the best, at the moment, all I can ask for.
So what do you think are going to be the results of the local government election? We're talking specifically about Cape Town. What do you think will happen?
Well, I think there will be some surprises. Possibly, Roscoe, you might join the DA. That will be the main surprise. I never give up.
Shock of the century.
Shock of the century. Well, crazier things have happened in South Africa. But what's going to happen? So you're asking me to be a political analyst, and that's something we all are around but when push comes to shove, now you put me in a corner. What do I think is going to happen? Well, I'm interested in a survey that was done recently. In fact, I saw it this morning in the Daily Mail online, where they were asked the question in the survey, you might well have seen it, who you're going to vote for. And they literally listed all the parties. And fascinatingly enough, at the moment, it's running ANC 22%, give or take, and the DA 21. And all the other parties were, I think the EFF came in with 13. So I think that with the stay away, I think with the organizational skills of the DA, and now that I'm well versed in how the DA operates at ground level, it's extremely well organized machine, right down to the tables and the tablecloth that gets delivered on the day of the election, making sure your cell phone batteries are charged. And I mean, I'm always impressed by its organizational ability. So I think that's going to make a big difference for the DA. Yes, I do think, and I'm always, there's a lot of people who said, yeah, but Mike, your optics are all wrong. I know what that means. It means we've got a leader who's white and he's not of color. But, so be it. I think I'm like a lot of, we all, all I really want is for people to be happy. I want people to vote for the DA or the ANC, whatever it is, but I want a happy country. And for a long time ago, I was very concerned about the fact that the DA is now seen as white party. And really, quite frankly, I listened to criticism about the DA, but I never hear anything really like damning criticism. It's always like, you're a white party and you look after the whites and you live in a leafy suburb and that sort of stuff. But I never hear actual criticism because I think the DA does, by and large, do the right thing. So should our optics be different? Should we have a black leader because that's what the country demands before they vote for the ANC? Or should the DA actually say, you know what, we want the best man for the job? So I've come around to thinking, and maybe that's because Steenhuisen's taken over, I don't know, and I'm just going to support him come hell or high water. But I have come to the feeling, and I think the ANC might be also coming around that way of thinking in terms of cadre deployment, that I actually don't care what the color of the guy's skin is. The fact that Steenhuisen is white, yeah, it would be nice if he wasn't, but he isn't because he's the best man for the job. We've got a new mayoral candidate who is a white guy, and he's taken over from Dan Plato, who's not. How did he get the job? Well, apparently he was the best man for the job. So must we discriminate him on the color of his skin? No, I don't think so. He's the best man for the job. And so, yeah, that's going to work against the ANC because the DA, because the ANC will play on that, and they will play on it heavily. And yeah, we're going to have to take that on the chin. But if we start choosing, in my opinion, any party that starts choosing people on the basis that they have the right skin color for the job, but not the credentials nor the capabilities to do the job, then we are in big trouble. And listening to President Ramaphosa last night, very interesting to hear him say for the first time after cadre deployment was announced as ANC policy in Parliament when I was there by President Zuma back in the day, that now the ANC has finally figured out it's not such a good idea to put a guy in there who has no idea what's going on, but he just happens to be in the party. And I predict, although I think it's too late, that the ANC might not actually start looking around and shock horror. We might actually get a white guy in there doing a very important job because he can deliver, not because he's ANC, but they'll actually put him in there because he actually knows how to operate the pumps and the sewage work, and he's the best trained man for the job. So in a roundabout kind of way, I'm thinking that the DA is actually going to do quite well simply because there will be a big stay away. It will take a knock on the optics of the DA, but essentially, I think the ANC has got so little to offer that the DA is a poor second best in the opinion of many. And so I think it's going to certainly hold the Western Cape very well. And I think might surprise us up in Tshwane. I think the DA is going to do very well. I think that is it, Randall Williams. I really rate him. And I think that from what I can see is happening, the DA has done a lot of work behind the scenes, plus capitalize on the fact that the ANC is also in disarray there as well. So I'm looking overall for a positive response. Sure, it would have been better. I love Musi Maimane. I wish he hadn't left, but for whatever reason he has, I think we would have done really well. But hey, you know what? That's what it is.
Yeah. Mike, let's take a break, have a sip of water, and
Sure.
then we'll be back in 5. Okay.